Hello, this is Matt Bergman, and you are listening to the Punk Rock Libertarians Podcast, episode 63. I'm here tonight with Jared Schneiderman.
Hey, man.
And Statist Ned.
Hey, what's going on, folks?
He's back.
I'm back.
Yeah, so, we're, we all just found out about Orlando today.
Right.
It's kind of the big news of the moment.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure most people probably have heard of what's going on there. But basically, some guy with alleged connections to radical Islam shot up a gay nightclub in Orlando. Last I heard, it was like 50 people dead and maybe like 20 more injured.
I think it's more like 50, another equal number injured.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
okay.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah,
shot.
So it's tragic, I don't know. It's like every time this happens, we pretty much say the same stuff. I feel like, you hear people come out against gun control or for gun control. You hear people come out against Islam. You hear people. I guess those are really the two main things that people are saying.
Oh, they're 100-pound, 400-pound gorillas in the room. I mean, it's you can't really talk about these things. I mean, it's sort of the perfect storm, if you will.
Right.
Not only does it embody like all of our fears, but it's also incredibly bigoted violence too.
Yeah.
Considering that the guy specifically targeted the homosexual community.
Yeah.
He had an axe to grind.
Right.
Regarding that, and the fact that he was, kind of had, like you said, allegedly had ties or at least sympathies towards a lot of the the radical Islamic stuff that's going on in the world today. And that he used an automatic weapon, and which he was able to purchase legally, and
Was it fully automatic or something like
I
that?
was probably say it was semi-automatic. I'm sure you can.
I don't think you can legally buy fully automatic, can you?
You can, but it's you have to get a special license. It's a real sweat.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I believe in certain states you just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the federal ban's lifted, but in Maryland, I believe you just can't anyways because there was already a ban.
Right. But apparently, that I heard one of the things I'd heard was that his father, the perpetrator's father, came out and actually said, hey, my son, I consider this to be a hate crime. My son had always, been
I just heard something interesting about
very
the dad.
intolerant. Yes, yeah.
Apparently, he was.
Bet you know what you're gonna say. Yeah.
He was a member. Or he supported he had like his own show.
Yeah, a YouTube video blog thing.
And he like supported the Taliban.
Right.
And claimed to be the president of Afghanistan.
It was kind of some of that was sort of satire-ish, I think, to try and just be outrageous. But yeah, he did a number of times. I haven't seen any of the particular episodes myself, but did purportedly came out to sympathize with the Taliban, made a number of really critical statements against the Pakistani government. Not that that's really that big of a deal, but and to think that he, because he says that his son's attack is motivated by hate towards the homosexual community and has nothing to do with Islamic fundamentalism or anything like that.
That's total bullshit.
Yeah, it's a little.
I mean, it clearly says in the Quran,
Right.
and obviously, and obviously, not all Muslims. That's kind of the thing that gets thrown out there, but you can't deny that there is a link between Islamic doctrine and the hatred of homosexuals. I mean, you see it with ISIS. They're like throwing homosexuals off of buildings. In Saudi Arabia, they're like executing homosexuals. So it's not something that's, oh, this guy just had this weird thing that he just didn't like gay people. Well, no, it was clearly rooted in, and maybe you want to call it a I mean, you can call it a literal interpretation. I mean, you can call it an extreme stance on the issue, but to deny that it has any religious motivation is just purely. I mean, it's really just political correctness bullshit.
Well, you know, one of the problems that I think Islam has is that as far as religions go, they currently embody a lot of the things that used to be really unpleasant about all major world religions. And they're sort of like in some ways like the last bastion of that old, you know, that more I guess you would almost call it medieval thinking.
Yeah. Savage thinking.
Yeah. So, and you know, and they also act out on it frequently too.
Yeah.
Not just you know, preach intolerance and hatred towards, you know,
right,
marginalized groups, but they
it's really
actively
just lack
carry
of
it
like
out.
a strong Reformation movement that pretty much every other religion has experienced. You know, Christianity, you have the Protestant Reformation, you have with Judaism. I mean, you know, there's very few Orthodox Jews left. Most people are either conservative, which is like most people, and then there's Reform, which is like an even less like strict interpretation of anything.
Right.
And in fact, like most Jews are like, well, not most, but a good portion are actually just atheists and just are Jewish by culture only. Like that's how I would like call myself.
Right. I think that, like I said, every religion has been major religion has been guilty of this sort of behavior. It's just that right now it's very easy to see it in the Islamic community that it is.
And unfortunately, the fact that it's happening right now means that these people have access to better technology than, you know, the Crusaders did.
Right.
You know, I mean, they had swords and fucking bows and arrows, and now we have
right
machine guns and dirty bombs and shit like that. So it's much more terrifying.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's something that definitely it needs to be talked about. But the problem is people are afraid to talk about it because as soon as you talk about it, you get called an Islamophobe.
Right. Well, it's you know, I mean, it's you have to be able to speak truth about stuff, though, too. I mean, you know, to honestly say, but at the same time, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, one of the counter arguments to that is like, well, you can't indict a religion as a whole for some of the bad actors who happen to be part of that religion. You know, and whether you can blame the religion as an institution itself, or whether you have to, you should really the blame should fall on the individual.
Well, I mean, it has to be both, though, because I mean, the individual isn't going to do. I mean, this guy isn't going to do that if he never comes into Islam.
That's true, but at the same time, could you really would it really be a correct thing to do to you know, enact legislation against a particular religion? You know, I mean, that doesn't strike me.
No. I mean, it's got to be a war of ideas. It's got to be. But that's what I'm saying is, like, we have to be able to criticize Islam and say, like, look, here's all the fucked up shit. If you're going to continue to take the Quran as a literal word of God, instead of, like, having, you know, more of a reformed viewpoint where it's like, this is an interpretation of, you know, what someone wrote down, and, you know, it might be, you know, whatever you have to do to kind of get away from that. Because as soon as you're saying, like, oh, this is, like, the complete word of God and everything in it is truth,
right,
then there is no debate over whether it's wrong to, like, you know, kill homosexuals, or whether it's wrong to force women to wear burqas, or whatever it is, you know.
Matt, what are you doing with that knife over there, buddy?
That's about to kill somebody with that thing.
Yeah, you hurt somebody, you hurt yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, you can't say, like, all... The wrong thing to do is say, like, all Muslims are bad people. Like, clearly that's wrong.
Right.
But it's okay, and we should attack specific tenets of Islam and say, like, this is fucked up, you know, and here's why it's fucked up, and here's why it doesn't, you know...
Well, this is precisely why I'm working on a new Facebook page. It's called Some Muslims Are Okay, I Guess.
Are you serious?
Are you guys gonna like it later?
I'm
just fucking around.
Well, you know,
I could see you definitely making a page like that.
I mean, for no other reason than it would be a hilarious name.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a tricky issue, man, but it's just... The worst thing is, like, you can't have an honest discussion about it without people just throwing out, just
Right.
name-calling and shutting down the debate.
Right.
And part of that is because of people like Trump, who are just like, oh, we just need to just ban all Muslims and just create a registry.
Right.
And, just people that literally think every Muslim is an evil person. Like, those are the people that kind of, that this other, like the other side of the spectrum, the super liberals who are like, oh, well, we can't say anything because they're a minority group, even though they're like not really a minority group at all.
Well, not in a global sense.
But they're like a victim of imperialism or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So you get these two reactions where, like, the middle ground is where, like, let's have just an honest conversation about this, without having the name calling go on.
Right. And then, of course, there's the other debate around this whole issue, which is going to be gun control. And,
Statist Ned weighs in. Go ahead.
It's very tough. Again, it's the 400-pound gorilla in the room. At what point do you say, well, if we have a proliferation of easily accessible, high-caliber, rapid-fire weapons that you can purchase legally, can you realistically expect people to not use them on other people?
Yeah, but I mean, in Paris, don't they have, like, strict gun control laws?
They do have strict gun control laws, and most of the weapons that were used in that attack were smuggled in. They were bought on the black market.
Oh, okay. So, wow.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, there's already so many guns in this country. I mean, if you want to do gun control, you should have done it, like, 100 years ago.
There is that.
I think if you want to do gun control, you should fuck off.
Yeah. Huh?
I think if you want to do gun control, you should just fuck off.
Yeah, but I'm just saying from a purely...
But I'm just saying, dude.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I'm not... All right.
I'm not...
Well, my point being, though, there's already, like, tons of guns in this country. Just like any other thing, if you enact prohibition on it, people are going to find a way to get it.
Yeah, I mean, even
especially, if it's one dude out of 300 million people.
Right.
And he really wants to shoot up a gay club.
Well, but
he's going to fucking figure out a way.
But it's not just one guy. I mean, this stuff like this goes on a fairly regular and predictable level. At what point do you say it's like, hey, I mean, maybe we need to, examine this from, say, a public health standpoint and say, we have this problem in this country. People shoot each other all the time. What are the root causes of it, and what really effective, things could you do to keep people from shooting each other so much?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, from, like, you mean, like a mental health kind of standpoint?
Well, just approach it as a public health problem. Say, okay, we have a problem. Yeah. We have a gun violence problem in this country. Nobody else has this this kind of a problem like we do, and just approach it. Just like it's like, oh well, we don't have clean water, or we don't, there's too much pollution in the air, or we don't have, there's rampant food poisoning going on, cholera epidemics. You identify the problem. You figure out what the root causes of it are, and then you remedy those causes. Right. And do you have to sacrifice individual liberties to remedy those causes? Maybe you do. I don't know. I mean, I don't really like the idea of me not being able to buy guns. Myself, personally, I think I'm a pretty responsible human being. I've never shot anybody with any of my guns or anything like that. But it seems like a lot of other people have a problem with it. They can't control themselves. And if you have people that can't keep their shit in check, and you can legally buy semi-automatic rifles and pistols and go shoot up nightclubs with them because you're a bigot, is that a good thing to have going on? I don't think anybody would argue that was a good thing to have going on. Maybe I could sacrifice some of my individual liberties to cut down on some of that stuff. I guess
you could if you wanted to be like a total idiot. Because, I mean, if somebody's not going to obey the law of, you're not allowed to murder people, what makes you think they will then obey a law that says you can't purchase handguns.
Or what if it's more of a an opportunity based thing? It's like, well, yeah, I'm a violent, bigoted guy, but my violence, the way that I can express myself violently, is limited through the fact that I can't purchase firearms, right? If I want to go into a nightclub and start killing people, I got to use a hammer or a sword or something,
bomb.
or a bomb. There's
Which
that.
might be more devastating.
Right. So, but harder to make. But that's what I'm saying about it being an opportunity thing too. There's no, if it was harder for people to get things like that, would you see the incidents go down? I'm putting it out there.
Okay, well, let me put something out there.
Yeah.
So, say if guns were legal, and this guy just got his guns through the fucking black market, I mean, I think with the situation, this guy was able to off like 50 motherfuckers, and then injure another 50 more. And then, just think if a couple people there, even just a couple people there had a handgun that it could pick this guy off.
Right.
Just two people there with a handgun. So, I think the problem is we don't have enough guns out there because we didn't have two people there with guns to, potentially pick this guy off before he was, whether it's 2 people or 10 people, I think we should
also,
be
how did
more
he get into
concerned
the club?
with these other people being able to defend himself before this guy is able to kill 50 of them and then injure another 50.
Well, my question is, how did he get into the club with a gun in the first place?
Like, you probably just came right in through the front door.
Well, yeah, dude, you could walk right by the door guy. I mean, you could probably shoot the door guy because the door guy didn't have a gun, But
right.
if even just 2 people in this packed club, had a gun, chances are, 2 people, one of them could have picked them off,
Yeah. But, I mean, I think... I'm just under the... I don't think that just banning... Yeah, it might be harder for the guy to get a gun, but if you really want... If it's a premeditated act, he's going to find a way to get a gun if they're available.
I mean, this is like a suicide mission for this guy.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
This guy knew he wasn't going to get out of it. So, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that this guy's going to not pull out all the stops to acquire one illegally anyway.
I mean, it's one thing if you're talking about, heat of the moment killings, which, I mean, you have more of an argument in that case because it's just, there happens to be a gun in the room and I grab the gun and I kill you with it.
Right.
But yeah, something like this, it's like this guy's gonna find a way, whether he has to get it shipped over from fucking,
or he just
Saudi
buys,
Arabia or whatever.
He just buys it illegally.
Or he buys it illegally, or
right.
he makes a bomb out of, anything that you can make a bomb out of. It's not that hard to.
Right.
And yeah, he could have killed more people, or he could have killed less. Who knows? But yeah, I just don't think that banning things really works. And I know they did something in Australia or whatever, but I've heard arguments about why that wasn't exactly what people are saying it is. I can't really recite it though. So
they made everybody turn their guns in. They outlawed private ownership of firearms. Except in
see, that's not the way to go.
Extreme cases. They're like, look, we're tired of it.
Because when you talk about laws, it's already illegal to murder people. What you're talking about is making it illegal for people to defend themselves.
That is the counter argument against that. However, the thing that I find disingenuous about that, your point being that, well, what if 1 or 2 people, in the club could have had handguns and could have picked this guy off? Well, if he can go out and buy assault rifles and lots of ammo and as many guns as he want to, guess what? Those people in the nightclub could have had handguns, and they didn't because they were in a public space, and it's not considered acceptable to carry weapons in that public space.
Maybe that is the problem, man. Because if you go to it's not socially acceptable to open carry even in states where it's legal. So
right.
maybe it should be more acceptable, because it would actually help prevent situations like this. If some of the good people in the room, which I think everybody here thinks there's more good people than bad people, in the world and probably in that club.
Right.
You know, so if some of those good people had guns, I mean, they would be at less of a
But my point is, they could have had guns.
Yes, they could have had guns,
but they didn't.
You know, it does.
Is it legal to open carry in Florida?
Well, legal or not, it's kind of like socially unacceptable.
Well, that's what. Yeah, but exactly. That's what I was going to go off on. Was it's like culturally there's this taboo against guns, like out in the open.
Right.
So someone that's going to do something like this is aware of that and does not expect there to be a gun. And the thing is, it's like just the fact that there could be somebody armed somewhere in that building could possibly have deterred him. Just like the idea, if we lived in a culture where it was like, yeah, you walk into a place and probably somebody in that place is going to have a gun, and this is just something that everyone is aware of and everyone's comfortable with.
Right.
So in that scenario, it's like, you're really taking a risk if you're going to be that gunman and go in there, because you're rolling the dice and hoping like everyone left their guns at home tonight and that not one or two or more than that have guns.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and I don't think we want to have like, you know, the fucking, you know, shootouts in clubs all the time. And I don't think that's what would happen. But it's just the knowledge that like this is an armed society,
right?
And we're going to protect ourselves against people who,
you know,
are going to do us harm. I think that
I gotta say though, like a shootout would be better than what we saw, which was a fucking massacre.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like shootouts all over the place.
Well,
like,
yeah, I'm just saying.
Wild.
But
Matt, you and I've had this conversation all the time. I mean,
much sooner.
Yeah, I really wouldn't want to go into an environment, you know, on a regular basis where I knew people had guns and then were drinking. You know, that's just a recipe for disaster.
It might not even be just like the patrons. It could just be security guards
right.
just armed there. I mean, I don't see why that would be an issue. Like, I mean, you have bouncers at bars, and you know they beat up people all the time.
Oh
so
yeah.
It's like why not let them be armed? You know.
Right.
I think we just have this. It's weird. We have like this fear of guns in this country, and then we also have this like extreme love of guns.
Right.
And it's like this weird.
It is yes, it is very inconsistent.
So,
I think it might not be that. It might be that there are just certain segments in this country that are really.
It's not one person like.
Well, you know, it's like, you know, Jared and I are talking about going to. Well, we are going to be going to Pork Fest next week. And you know, when I think about this topic, and then I think about Pork Fest, you know, there's a lot of people there that are just like open carrying, you know, everything from like you know, assault rifles to you know, semi-automatic pistols to whatever. You know, it wouldn't shock me to see some guy walking around there with a broadsword. You know?
Right.
You know, it's and then in a place like that, you know, you if one person went crazy, you know, you can bet that somebody's going to, you know, take them down before you reach, you know, numbers of such a great proportion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, how often do you see somebody get killed at a gun show?
Right. Never.
Never. It never happens, Steve.
Exactly.
Well, but also everybody's on their best behavior too.
Well, I think it has to do with like an armed society is a polite society, and it's like, I mean, you have less greater odds of, you know, getting a bunch of people in there before getting killed. So it'd be the worst place to try to pull something like this.
Yep. So, any other comments on that situation?
I don't know. I think we hit it pretty good.
All right. So the Democratic nomination or primary, or whatever you want to call it, seems to have come to a bit of a head.
Yeah. Although it is potentially still up in the air if they're able to, the people who are bringing lawsuit against the DNC on racketeering charges under the RICO Act, alleging voter fraud, rather widespread voter fraud.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too.
It's like, dude, if they're not going to get Hillary on the emails, and they're not going to get her on, well, I guess the emails are the only legitimate thing that's up in the air right now.
Right.
They're not going to get her on, or they're not going to. I don't know. It's just not going to happen.
Or it won't be in a timely fashion.
No, they'll drag it out in court for the next year, and then it won't even matter because she'll be maybe be president or.
So
lost.
the balloon, the looks like the days are numbered for the Sanders campaign, at least as a viable election option. Which is a shame. I was a pretty big Bernie supporter. I mean,
you were feeling the burn.
I was feeling the burn. I respect the fact that he is claims he's going to take it all the way to the convention and contest the convention. I don't think that he will succeed in doing that, but give him some kudos for not putting the gloves away until the fight is really over.
Right.
However, it's pretty obvious that he's not going to win. I think probably the best thing that he can hope for is to somehow shape the
platform.
The platform and policy, stated policies going forward. Whether or not that's how successful that's going to be, I think it's really based on how many of his supporters decide that they will suck it up and vote for Hillary Clinton, and what Hillary Clinton, how many of them Hillary Clinton thinks that she needs in order to be able to beat Donald Trump.
Right.
Whether or not she will, accept some type of, some modification that he would put forth to the stated, directives or whatever of the new Democratic administration. My personal thought is that she will probably pay a lot of lip service to it, and then it will, once she's in office, all that stuff will just get quietly go away.
Yeah, I mean, she's not bound to follow any of that shit.
No.
I mean, even Obama didn't even follow the own shit that he said.
That's very true.
Yes, even Lord Obama.
Lord Obama. Lord Obama.
So,
Barry.
After losing, a string of primaries where actually it looked like he might win them, and had he been able to win them, he would have been in a much better position to have his demands met, or maybe even simply stay in the race.
Yeah.
And get the nomination. Now I think he's been effectively pretty much defanged as far as that goes. So I am officially going to do what I had said that I was thinking about doing when this eventuality was going to happen, and that is I'm not going to vote Democratic this year, but I am going to keep my Democratic voting status through the election before I switch back to non-affiliated again. And I'm going to vote for Gary Johnson.
Nice.
Yeah.
Feeling the Johnson.
I'm feeling the Johnson.
Yeah, dude. Johnson in and around your mouth.
Well.
Make Johnson grow.
Not that I think that he has really any more chance of winning being elected president than Bernie Sanders does, but he does at least have.
He definitely has more.
Yes, now. Yeah, that's right. There's a greater percentage chance that he would become president than Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bernie Sanders is just it ain't gonna happen for him.
Yeah.
But, I've always liked, Johnson on social issues and things like that. And I've never been 100% with the Bernie camp on some of their things, too. Yeah. I really just wanted to see if it was possible to have a more of a popular groundswell and an uprising and, and frankly, in my estimation, the Democrats blew it for themselves by not giving him more support and really just kind of, electing a candidate who had probably been promised this presidency 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So time's not right now. You hold on. We'll get you the job. You got to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But we'll make sure that it happens for you. The next time this comes around.
Right.
And I really wanted to see if it was the case that you could do that from inside the party itself, and I think that it is pretty obvious that it is not possible to do that.
Hey, Statist Ned, question: How old is Bernie? How old is Bernie? Do you know?
How old is Bernie? I think he's 75.
So, do you think there's much of a chance of him running again
No,
in,
I don't think so.
4 years even?
No. Well, that was one of the I was obviously one of the worries that I had about voting for him in the first place. I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore, and I'm sure he's had a rather, stressful life. I mean,
He does look stressed, but he doesn't seem to be of like horrible health.
Right. And what if the guy drops dead of a heart attack 2 years into his term?
Who is he even talking about making his VP?
He isn't talking about it really very much.
That would have just been interesting. I'm wondering who Trump's going to pick.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I don't know. I mean, he could
just be like, I'm the VP.
It's all about me. There's no VP. There's no room. But there can be only one.
That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. So and like I said, I've always enjoyed Johnson's issues on the
I've always enjoyed Johnson's.
Yeah. His take on social issues and things like that it conforms very much with the way I feel about things. So I have no problem supporting him.
Awesome. Yeah, so speaking of Johnson, Mitt Romney was on, what the fuck was he on? The Situation Room.
Yeah. Mittens back in it.
Yeah, and so he was getting interviewed, and I actually saw part of it when I was at the gym, and the part I saw, he was asked, okay, are you going to vote for, who are you going to vote for?
Right.
And he's like, well, I'm not voting for Trump, and I'm not voting for Hillary.
Right.
He's like, when I saw it, he said, I might write in somebody, probably be a Republican.
Right.
But then I guess later on in the interview, or before that, I guess probably later on, he was asked about Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, and I believe the quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but I believe he said that he was like, if it was Bill Weld at the front of the ticket, I would vote in a second. But I do like this Gary Johnson guy. I'm going to need to look into him.
Well, it's kind of funny because, he ran against Gary Johnson in 2008.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, you didn't research your opponent then?
Well, you probably just didn't take him seriously.
Well,
I mean, on one hand, I don't give a fuck about Mitt Romney.
Right.
I
was gonna say, I don't think like having Mitt Romney endorse Gary Johnson is gonna.
I don't think it's. I
will say it's a kind of a big deal, in a sense, because you're talking about a major.
Yeah, you're talking about a dude who ran for president.
A dude who ran for president, and he's talking about not endorsing, but voting for a third-party candidate that happens to be a libertarian candidate. I mean, that's. Yeah, so, it's interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, it's not like I think highly of Mitt Romney, so I'm gonna, really give a shit about who he endorses. And I think, for a lot of people, everybody in this room probably agrees with me on that. But obviously, there are some people who would give a shit. So he's putting by saying that he is
Utahns.
He is in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
well, and like the Mormons, he is a big Mormon guy. So, all the Utahns,
Utahnians,
the Utes.
Yeah,
he might be able to take Utah. Who knows? And I will give Romney props for just not falling in line and getting behind Trump. I mean, as much as I disagree with probably everything Mitt Romney believes in. The fact that he actually seems to have some sort of principles, and he's not.
He also has nothing to lose too. He's not getting back into politics in any meaningful sense, probably ever. So
he might have money connections. Who knows, man?
Well, yeah, I'm sure he's got but he's those days are over for him. So I think he probably feels a lot more. A lot less nervous about saying something like that than he would if he had, something, he could lose something by doing that.
Yeah, sure.
So
fair enough, but still, I'll give him some props on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
I think it's really funny how you start seeing the cracks in the wall. I mean, you have a very prominent Republican figure who's coming out and saying that he's not going to vote for his party's nominee,
right?
Just like Jill Stein, and some of her recent quotes. Matt, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah,
well, I don't know if that's Jill Stein's Green Party.
She's Green Party, but this is it's happening all over the place. It's happening on both sides.
Yeah, so Jill Stein. I saw a couple of interviews with her and RT this week, and I'll point out with Jill Stein. I agree with her on a lot of the social issues. She's anti-drug war. She's also
Anti-war.
Yeah, anti-war, like tremendously anti-war. I love that. And she's saying, everything that we fear with Trump, we've already seen from Hillary.
Right.
So
In practice.
Yeah, in practice, like she's like, we think Trump might do these things, but we've already seen Hillary definitely do these things.
Right.
So, I thought that was an interesting statement. And then the other thing that I saw her say this week, she's calling out for Bernie to somehow get in on the Green Party.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is that she would step over and be VP in a second if Bernie ran for president under the Green Party.
Right.
But even though Bernie Sanders was he was an independent for most of his career, correct?
A good bit of it, yeah. Before he became a senator.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? I thought he was even independent as a senator.
I'm not sure about that. I would have to research it. I do not know.
I think he was a Democratic senator.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. Pretty
I'm
sure
not
he's
100%
always been a Democrat.
Oh, if
I mean,
only-
he's
If only we had Google.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
Anyway.
don't feel like it.
Okay, so she's calling out for that, but Bernie's already said. I actually saw in an interview where he said that he would not run third party because he basically said that would just hand the election over to a Republican.
Right.
He's under that that Ralph Nader year 2000
Right.
Bush becomes president
Right.
kind of mentality.
I don't subscribe to that sort of mentality. I don't think it's it's that same
Well, it's what
either you're for us or against this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't like either one of you people.
Right.
Yep.
It
Why
just
would
seems
you-
like every election is this way, where it's like, well, you just want to, you don't want to vote, you don't want to throw away your vote, or you don't want to not vote and have this guy get in. So let's, the whole lesser of two evils things. But it's like, I feel like we go through this every election, but each election, it's like, oh, but this is the one where it's like you have to
do it, right?
Yeah, you have to, or else. It's like maybe if you would stop having that mentality, we wouldn't continue to propagate this, duopoly.
Yes.
And we might actually get a third party into office, but people are just so scared because that's the point, is like you scare people and then they
Right.
fall in line.
Yeah, well, there was so much awesome stuff with Johnson this week. Did you guys see he was on that show Full Frontal with Samantha Bee?
Yeah.
I didn't watch.
I didn't watch the interview.
Oh, you didn't watch it?
No.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty fucking hilarious. You
Oh,
know?
yeah?
He was just kind of acting ridiculous, and it was just stuff that you wouldn't normally see out of a presidential candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he was giving us a fair shake. And I can say recently I've had a few friends just kind of bring up to me, oh, hey, guess what? I'm going to vote for Gary Johnson, and I'm just
Nice.
yeah, well, that's probably the only sane person choice running, I just kind of
Yeah.
mention it like that, because it's I mean, it's a pretty big deal, but at the same time, it's like, well, I would hope so,
Right.
I would hope nobody would fall for these other people, I honestly, I don't see a lot of people that are posting shit on Facebook for Hillary. I feel like I know there are a lot of people for Hillary, but they kind of seem to be ashamed of it. I think in a lot of times, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's like.
They have their mindset that they're going to vote for her, but
But are
know she's not
really
too hot, so they don't
pro-Hillary?
wanna- yeah, exactly. They
Or
don't
are they
want to brag
anti-Trump?
about it,
Well, it seems I think it's easier to be anti-Trump than it is pro-Hillary.
Oh yeah.
Well,
so
of
so
course,
you can sort of disguise your support for Hillary Clinton by casting it as, well, wow, what's the alternative, Trump? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I got into an argument with a family friend about it this past week, and where we had the same conversation that we're having here, and I said, I really can't vote for Hillary Clinton. I don't want her to be president. I don't think it'd be a good idea. I think it's going to be the same business as usual stuff we've seen for the last 16 years. You know, nothing major is going to change. It's not, it's not going to get better. You know, we're going to keep fighting militarily in the Middle East with whoever we have to fight with. We're fighting with over there currently, and when we find somebody, when that one's done, we'll find somebody else to fight with over there. That's just how that thing works. And until you decide that you're going to stop doing that, and it won't happen. We don't seem to really have any interest in stopping doing that, as near as I can tell. It seems to be in what our government perceives as its best interest,
right?
To continue military actions over there. And I don't think any part of that will change with Hillary in the White House. I think you probably even had a better chance with more drawdown kind of stuff coming from the Obama administration than you do from her. She doesn't strike me as being the least bit dovish. In fact, rather hawkish.
100%, man. What are you doing, Matt? Checking out your flip phone?
Yeah.
Get off your flip phone, dude.
Are you playing Tetris on it?
Yeah. Dude, I do have Tetris on my flip phone.
Oh my god,
I
dude.
knew it. But so it's I think it's very disappointing, and but I think that you are starting to, like I said, see cracks in because it has been.
I mean,
although in some ways it's weird, I mean, if you want a populist candidate, I mean, the Republicans elected their populist candidate. Or they're not. He's going to get the nomination to be president. For their. Of course, the guy is like a blithering idiot. So I'm not too excited about that one. But do have to point out. I mean, they
it
really
does show
did.
that they were able to kind of, push aside. I guess whoever, I don't know. Just like go against the establishment in that sense.
Right.
But as we've discussed before, just because you're anti-establishment doesn't mean you're good. You know what I mean? Like you can be. Hitler was anti-establishment too, but
right. not a very good man.
Yeah.
But I mean, the weird thing about this election is it's utterly depressing. Regarding like who the two major parties have chosen, but at the same time, it's amazing.
It's like that every time, though. It's every time it seems like, wow, this is the worst you can get, and then you have the next
that's
election.
True. I mean, is it any worse than Mitt Romney and Obama?
I feel like it is. I feel like it gets worse every time. I don't know.
It gets worse every time?
Yeah, I feel like it gets worse every time. I feel like every time I'm like, wow, this is like the worst one yet. And then the next time,
it's even worse.
This is somehow even worse.
Yeah. So, but anyways, the silver lining in this year's election, it's just the fact that like the Libertarian Party is gaining so much steam.
I think that's definitely that's the one. That's the bright spot out of it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like I'm almost, happy that this situation is unfolding as is, because if it was two like moderate candidates that weren't really, if it was like another, I don't know, Clinton, Bush, or whatever, it would be like, there's no chance for a third party there or whatever. Or wait, was that when? Actually, wasn't that when PRL was running?
Yeah.
So actually, that's the opposite. That was like the best chance for. But anyways, aside from that,
Yeah. I think it's good that there is at least enough awareness on the part of the population at large that you do see this kind of interest in third parties, because I think there's a ever increasing segment of the population that's just fed up with what the GOP and the Democrats have to offer them.
Right.
Yeah,
it just makes me happy. That chaos. Are you gonna get off your phone, bruh?
Nah, dude.
What are you doing, man? We're running a podcast here. Stop being so goddamn high. All right, I guess any more about Johnson or?
Did
you see him on the Colbert Report? Or not the Colbert Report, the Late Show with Colbert or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got the Colbert bump.
Yeah, that was pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was kind of
cream for that.
What's that?
I wonder if there's a cream for that.
If there's a cream for it?
For the bump?
For the Colbert bump.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
When you're Johnson.
I mean, it was a little disappointing because like they seemed to like cut it down quite a bit. At least that's what I heard from Tom.
Yeah.
But I mean, the part that they did have on there was pretty awesome. You know, I think they came off really well. I mean, it's kind of funny though because pretty much every Gary Johnson interview, at least like mainstream interview, is like the same.
Right.
which is fine because he's kind of hammering on those. You know, look, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, gay rights, legalize weed, blah, blah, blah.
It seems like there are some people that are starting to fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Like, I think our
But dude, the coolest interview
well.
that I read was the Politico one with, what's his name, Thrush?
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool, man. They were they were, like, getting into the weeds about shit, like, literally talking about weed, like, you know, he's asking, like, Gary, how long have you been smoking weed for? Like, he was getting into shit.
Right.
And it was, like, really entertaining and really well done. It wasn't just, like, talking points. Yeah, no, I think, like, it's awesome that he's getting on all these major network shows. And, I mean, who knows, man?
Well, it's become newsworthy now. You know, there is enough buzz and general awareness of his candidacy that, that people are just like, oh, well, you know, we got to talk about something today. Hey, how about this Johnson guy, you know?
Right.
You know, what's he all about? Get him on the show, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely been in the press a lot this week, and Weld's in there too, you know? So it's...
oh, dude, there was one thing that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah?
So, I got into an argument with somebody because they made the claim that Johnson and Weld support the TPP. So I looked into it, and Gary Johnson is quoted as saying that he's against it. However, Bill Weld is quoted as saying that they're both for it. Which is troubling.
Weird.
Like, I'm not sure... Like, what he said was, like, we're for, we believe in free trade, which is why we vigorously support the TPP.
The TPP is not about free trade at all.
I know, which is why I was like, maybe he misspoke or doesn't understand it, or
right.
like.
I think it's probably. I'm going to hope that it's just because he didn't understand what the heck he was talking about.
Maybe.
Weld. Well, I believe Weld was pretty hard in favor of it, and maybe he wasn't. I mean, I kind of get the feeling that Weld was,
But this is a recent interview too. This
I
is
understand, but I kind of get the feeling that Weld was probably approached like pretty last minute to be Gary's VP. You know, and also.
But this article, he spoke like we, as in like they were already together. Like it came out like June.
I understand, but what I'm saying is.
They haven't had time to hash out.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like Gary probably hasn't had time to like tell him everything that he's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of like he was brought in pretty last minute. Because, like, I had heard from inside sources in the Johnson campaign, like 2 or 3 weeks before, or maybe a month before, that they were thinking about somebody else as a VP who would have been, a very big name as well.
Judge Knapp?
Yeah. It's like, I wouldn't really care to say at this point, but, in other words, Weld wasn't necessarily their first choice, but he ended up being the one that they went with. Yeah. So I think it was kind of a last minute thing.
Do you think that was intended to as a sort of nod to disaffected Republicans that say, hey, look, we've got this, Yeah,
exactly. We've got two. We've got two GOP two-term governors on a ticket.
Right.
So it's a nod to Republicans, but at the same time, it's a nod to. This is the brilliance of it. At the same time, it's a nod to Democrats. Mm-hmm. Because both Johnson and Weld were, GOP governors in states that normally vote heavily Democratic, where it's odd to see a Republican governor.
Right.
So, it happens that a lot of liberals like these guys, because they support the women's right to choose. And, at least Johnson, railed against the drug war in, fucking 1999,
right.
So, there's, both of these guys, while being former GOP governors, they happen to be GOP governors who actually, appeal well to liberals.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a brilliant... The only thing is, it's like, the only people it doesn't appeal to are, hardcore libertarians.
Well, yeah,
or,
but I mean...
purist libertarians or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean...
that can't see the forest for the trees.
You know, I consider myself to be pretty purist, but
Yeah,
I'm also pragmatic at the same time,
Right.
you know?
I mean,
Practical.
like, my whole thing is, like, I've kind of...
Principled. I'm principled, but...
Yeah. Well, the thing
pragmatic.
is, I've sort of, like, been thinking about this concept called net liberty, right? So, like, if any action produces a positive net liberty, then this is an action we should take. Right? So if it increases, like, the amount of liberty, whether it be, like, civil liberty or social liberty or whatever have you,
Economic
liberty, then we should support that action. Now, of course, it's hard to predict what's the unintended consequences of something. But, I mean, the way I see this presidential ticket, yeah, I mean, it's not the ideal libertarian, like, they're not, ideal libertarians themselves, but I think that...
Yeah, I've actually heard Johnson say some things, even in person, too, where I was like, wow, that is not what I would expect to come out of,
right.
a libertarian frontrunner's mouth.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, like, but I think that, like, the fact that they're running, the fact that they're doing this is going to be a net positive for liberty in the long run.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to do a number of things. It'll attract more people to the Libertarian Party, which will attract them to libertarian principles. It'll sort of undermine the two-party system. It could open the door for... I mean, if they don't win this year, it could open the door for,
Match
elections
funds
down
next
the
year.
road.
Yeah.
What?
Match funds.
Matching funds.
Yeah, like if they get, I believe it's like 5% of the vote. I believe next time you'll get your funds matched by the government
For your election campaign.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, shit. I was not aware of that. That's
so
dope.
yeah, I mean.
So yeah, I mean, I don't see
they'll be
any
eligible
negatives.
for
I mean, and all the
election
stuff that
welfare.
people criticize Johnson for, like the stupid cake thing, and like what was the other one? I don't know, but it's all just like, look, yeah, these aren't like the answers he gave are not like principled libertarian answers. But at the end of the day, who gives a fuck?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not part of his campaign. He's not campaigning to like shut down bakeries, or force bakeries to like fucking make Nazi cakes.
Yeah, and this is the Jewish guy pointing this out.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's if I was having a conversation with some asshole on Facebook about that one issue, I'd be like, yeah, you're wrong. Like, that's a violation of the NAP. But this is a completely different scenario where this guy's just trying to get elected, or just trying to like get the Libertarian Party out in front of people, maybe get elected, and I don't see any of that shit factoring in at all, so I just wish people would stop. I mean, people have a right to say what they want to say, obviously, but it's just, I find it counterproductive to just hammer on those issues. And just
it's that's been one of the problems with the libertarian, just in general. You guys are so individualistic, it's hard to get you to do things collectively.
That's part of the problem. I mean, well, that's why, like, ultimately, like, the political system just doesn't make sense for libertarians.
Right.
But we gotta start somewhere. We gotta, put one foot in front of the other. We can't just start running down the road. So
yeah, it's one thing to do. Might not even be the best thing to do, but it's something.
Right.
So I guess moving on, do you want to talk about Statist Net? Do you want to talk about Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, really, really depressing incident that is pretty emblematic of influence peddling and New World Order and all that kind of stuff. However you want to phrase it or characterize it. The Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon of the UN, came out this past week and admitted that he had been pressured to take the Saudi Arabia off a list that the UN compiles of countries that persecute war and suffering on children in general. It's the usual, bad actors on there. You find quite a bit of the same things on, again and again and again. But Saudi Arabia recently has been prosecuting a war in Yemen to prop up the regime in Yemen against the popular uprising.
Right.
And they have been absolutely ruthless in attacking civilian targets, bombing towns and cities, denying food aid going in from and so the UN was like, look, we're gonna have to put you on the list, the baby killing list.
Yeah.
And Saudi Arabia said, okay, well, you know what? If you go ahead and do that, we're going to yank all the funding that we have been putting into the UN for this program and this program and this program and this program. Don't you dare put us on that list.
Right.
And they didn't. And I guess he had a crisis of conscience. Because after they took him off the list, he came forward and said, you know what? They made us take him off the list.
Wow.
And we caved.
That's a bold move.
It is a pretty bold move. And it also, gets them on the list without actually having to put them on the list.
Right.
So he can sort of have plausible deniability. It's like, they're
not going
to get put back on the list.
But I'm saying they're not going to yank their funds though, even though he.
I don't know. We'll have to see what it caught the Saudis completely off guard.
Yeah.
Then when he came out and did that, and they were like, well, we never do anything like that.
But it's so obviously do. Like, who doesn't know about that shit? Like,
right.
The whole thing's just. What didn't you have an article called "The UN is a Farce" or something?
Yeah.
Or was that your comment or something?
Yeah, it was like the caption. Yeah.
Was it that story?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
It was about Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Okay.
Committing some sort of human rights violation.
Well, yeah, aren't they like also the head of like the Human Rights Council or something?
On the UN, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is
totally
like
absurd. Oh man. Yeah, it's not surprising at all.
Yeah, but I mean, at least there was some attempt to
rectify
rectify the situation.
Rectify.
You rectifying over there?
Yeah.
Which I think, and so kudos to the Secretary General for at least outing them.
Yeah.
Not that there's any real, these sort of things they are sort of mostly
there's no action.
There's no action behind it. No one's bound to do anything. It's just shaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all we got for today, man.
I think so too.
Okay.
Cool.
Until next time, live free.
Statism's footprint is the blood that is shed, drenching the flags of the tax bombs in red. Poisoned by a few at the expense of the many. Soldiers and cards in a death machine. You can't justify killing by economic gain. For God, country, and democracy, you can put freedom in gunpoint in a foreign land. We support the troops, then bring them home. I believe that you will do the best for you. And I believe that we have the power, I hate the state, and I know I'm a slave. We can make the break the power. Society owes individuals nothing more than non-interference with natural rights. Once a virtuous person fully comprehends the non-aggression principle, the violence of the state becomes obsolete.